What's up, guys? It's your boy Zowoki back with another reaction towards the Chris Watts video of evidence that we are hopefully compiling together that one day somebody will wake up and decide to go after said person. But you guys have been asking and begging me to watch the truth behind Chris Watts' Mistress, the involvement of Nichol Kessinger, and the connection, one of two, from the Tilted Lawyer. Now, you guys have been spamming me, telling me I need to watch this. This man goes through apparently a mock trial, like how it should have been or how it could be. I'm definitely going to be watching this with you guys at home. So make sure you guys go over to this man's channel, give him some love, subscribe, comment, like, and share. I'm going to get right into it because it's a little bit of a lengthy video, but I definitely want to see what this man has. And I don't even know about this man. I just been told that it was so good and I need to watch it. So with that being said, let's get into it. But before we go any further, make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel by hitting the wiper icon down the bottom right. Hit the bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you guys so very much for that continued love and support on this channel. I can't thank you guys enough. We just hit our 50,000 subscriber goal. And now this bad boy will be going to somebody tomorrow at the live stream at 7 p.m. Central. This one will be going out. 75,000 subscribers. We'll be doing another one of these. And then 100,000 subscribers. We're going to do one of these bad boys, an Xbox Series X, and a gaming PC from NZXT. And so why not subscribe? You can get some free stuff, plus free merch and all the above. But with that being said, let's get into the video and watch the truth behind Chris Watts' Mistress involvement, Nichol Kessinger, and her connection, part one. So let's take a look.
Good morning, everybody. This is Omar Serrato, the Tilted Lawyer podcast. And on today's episode, we are going to explore and go over the actual evidence from the 2,000-page documentary discovery file that exists, that details the evidence that highlights Nichol Kessinger's involvement in the murder of Christopher Watts' family. You're going to want to stick around for this one. There's not a lot of fluff. Let's get started.
I like what I'm hearing.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts.
So an actual professional is looking at this case. A professional. Give this man some love. Subscribe, comment, like, and share this man. I'm already liking what I'm seeing.
Thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
I got some tea. Only 342.
Okay, we're back. There is a lot of conspiracy theories flying out there right now about Nichol Kessinger's involvement in the murder of Christopher Watts' wife and his two toddler daughters, Cece and Bella, and the unborn Nico. Shanann was pregnant, I believe it was 15 weeks at the time that she lost her life at the hands of her husband.
I like these things that this man's got right here. I need to get one of those.
After his very infamous confession to the FBI interrogators that were investigating the case. But there's a lot of information right now and content that is being produced on the strength of this case, Christopher Watts. There are literal YouTubers that have devoted entire YouTube channels specifically to uncovering the truth about the Nichol Kessinger involvement in this case. And
my channel is about everything nerdy, but I'm big into this case because I want to see the justification on this.
I really hesitated to dive into this topic just because it's so overly saturated, but really. And welcome back, Ileana Clone Rosa, from her 2-week hiatus with strep throat and all kinds of other crazy nonsense, illnesses, infections at the hands of her 7-month-old little innocent baby. And welcome special guest co-host, my mother, Sophia Luna, who is present making her show debut.
That's his mother?
On the Tilted Lawyer podcast to offer her insights into the case.
I'm not
the
gonna say
mother
anything,
of
man.
the Tilted Lawyer. The Queen of Dragons herself.
You have a good-looking mother.
You know, in another life, I believe that my mom could have been Griselda Blanco.
Oh, okay.
But she didn't go that route. She chose a different route. All right. So before I even get into the evidence, and here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to entertain conspiracy theories about Nichol Kessinger
Amen.
or Christopher Watts. I'm not going to delve into the family drama too much between Christopher Watts' family and what was going on with their marital problems and the pecan ice cream scandal. All of that is irrelevant today.
The whole
what I want to focus on
ice cream
is
thing.
Should the district attorney of Colorado charged Nichol Kessinger with some form of conspiracy for her involvement in the planning and execution of the murder of Shanann Watts, Nico, Bella, Cece. I went through the entire 2,000-page discovery file that is readily available for public. Yeah, 2,000 pages. Yeah. And I learned some things that I never knew prior to this. Did you guys know that on page 88 of the discovery file, that there was a tip from a legit psychic offering their conclusions about what happened to Shanann and the children?
They said no.
On August 15th, there was they had set up this hotline, and this psychic calls in and they took notes. And the notes that are contained on page 88 pretty much mirrors.
I was going to do this. If you guys want me to make a video on this about what the medium said compared to the notes and stuff like that, to comparison, let me know down in the comments.
What exactly happened. And so I'm going to say this. Right now, I had my own conclusions prior to my deep dive into this case. And I'm sure you guys have your own conclusions. Christopher Watts offered a full confession and his version of events on what happened, not just before he was actually, he pled guilty and was charged with the crimes, but after he was already sitting in state prison, serving his life sentence, he offers his own version of events. So before I even get into all of this actual evidence, not conspiracy theories, I'm not entertaining what may or may not have happened. I'm not going to entertain conjecture or speculation. From the discovery files itself is what I'm going to base my conclusions on. But before I get into all of that, Ileana, Mom, was Nichol Kessinger involved?
I don't know.
In a role that was greater than just she was the mistress?
I need to hear the evidence. I have no idea.
Nope.
See, she doesn't even know.
You got to come up with a bleep. Dominic, bleep me out. But offer your conclusion. It's okay to be wrong, but just initial thoughts. Was she involved or not? Or was she just a victim of choosing the wrong married partner?
Based on what I've known, like the documentaries that I've seen, which was probably more than a year ago, I have to say no. At least the way that it was presented in those documentaries, I had no...
But they didn't say much about her. That's the thing.
No inclination to think that she was involved. Like she was just an innocent...
I wonder what her background is.
I guess new girlfriend.
By the way, you're not allowed to use the word inclination. Every time I hear that word, every time I've ever heard that word, I always hear back the media clip of Christopher Watts. I have no inclination as to where Shanann and the kids are. It's like, why is he using the word inclination? This guy's a freaking idiot. Mom, what do you think?
Well, we all know that her involvement was her being a mistress.
Yeah, but was she involved in the murders or not?
That we don't know yet.
Well, what would you say now? Because we're going to form some conclusions at the end of the show. Make no mistake about that. But before I get into all the evidence, what would you say, knowing what you know right now? And my mom is not a lawyer. She's a lay person. And so from your perspective, involvement, yes or no?
I can't say yes or no. I don't know.
Pick one. You have to.
I can't say.
Nope. You got to call it. It's heads or tails. This coin's been traveling for 20 years.
Okay, then I will
to get
go
here.
ahead and say,
come on, Mom.
Just based on the fact that he fell in love with his mistress, he wanted to have a different life, and she may have been involved in his mind, but not at her hand.
They're both saying no.
Okay. So was that a yes or was that a no? It's okay. Never mind. Everybody listening on the show, comment down below. What do you think before we get all this evidence? And look, I'm not breaking any ground here. I mean, this case has been covered ad nauseum by the YouTube community, by the general public, by true crime podcasters from here to Timbuktu.
Reporters.
And so nothing that I'm going to reveal on the show is anything that hasn't been revealed before. I'm just going to give my opinion as a lawyer from a criminal law perspective about what I think.
D.A. Rourke, not junior detective, professional attorney.
Think Nichol Kessinger should or should not have been charged with respect to this case. So let's get to this. You know what? Let's break into it. The interrogations in this case were very significant. I've watched every minute of the interrogation of both Christopher Watts and
Same.
Nichol Kessinger over the years. And he starts off with this story, but I don't know. She just took off and took the kids and she left a ring. And he's trying to make it seem as though, oh, we're going to get divorced. And she found out I had an affair. But before that, he didn't even admit that he was having an affair. It's like, I would never cheat on my wife. And then the interrogator's like, well, we saw your phone. I was like, okay, I might have cheated on her. Okay, I definitely
Exactly.
did, but it doesn't make me a bad person. Okay, I cheated on her, but I would never hurt the girls. Okay, the girls might have been hurt, but it wasn't at my hands. Shanann did it. Okay, Shanann might not have done it. It was, you know what? Okay, it was me. And people say, why did he stop there? Why would he not implicate Nichol Kessinger, his mistress, in all of this? The theory being, he was so much in love with her. One of the theories floating in, but the most prevalent is he was so in love with her that he was willing to sacrifice himself so that she might break away from this. There's a lot more to that than that, just that wild, that just me pointing that out. There's a lot more. It goes deeper than just her involvement in the murders. I'm going to talk about later, there may have been a plot to induce a miscarriage by way of Oxycontin. And there was a point in the interrogation where Christopher Watts fesses up to the Oxycontin scenario, but it says, I will never tell you where I got those pills. I will take that secret to my grave, after he just confessed to murder.
That makes no sense.
But there's a lot of evidence in the discovery that the FBI, let's just assume that they knew where he got those pills from. Never mind. I'll get to that in a minute. In the interrogation, there's been a lot of studies from behavioral psychologists about the way Christopher conducted himself.
Deceptive detective is a great one. Link will be in the description.
His mannerisms, the way that he would have his hands positioned, the way that he was constantly fidgeting with his neck, the way that he would position his hands in like the strangulation type scenario. And
So
one
did
of the
Nicole.
FBI interrogators on a media interview basically came out and said that, you know what? This guy definitely strangled his wife. And this was before the confession. This is the first time because of his constant fidgeting with the neck. But when Nichol Kessinger was interrogated, she in kind was constantly playing with her neck, constantly making these motions with her hands throughout the entire thing. And so the question then becomes, okay, so if you form that conclusion on the basis of observing Christopher Watts' behavior, then why not with Nicole? It's a question that's never been answered. And it might infuriate you that they haven't examined that question further once you hear about some of the stuff that we have to say. So Nichol Kessinger's involvement in the case, everybody knows that she was the mistress. But the suspicious behavior and inconsistencies that surfaced with the discovery basically amounts to this. There was phone pings of her cell phone at the Watts residence on the morning of the murders.
Dang, this guy's good.
August 14th.
I mean, I've been saying this in all my stuff too, and I showed the map and the pop-ups and the circle diagrams, but he's saying a lot more than what I've said before as well. Does that make sense? So I've said a lot. He's said the exact same thing, if not a little bit more, because he's an educated professional. He knows what he's talking about. This man has gone to law school. He's like a licensed attorney. So he's just reiterating what I've said, but added more to it because he's a professional. So us junior detectives, we know a little bit, but he knows more.
2018. So Shanann Watts gets home at around, I think it was like 1:30 a.m. or 2 a.m. She's from a long business trip. She's dropped off by her friend or whatever. Whatever unfolded from the surveillance video that we see is at 4:30, Christopher Watts is starting to he's starting to move the bodies out of the house. He backs up the truck into the garage. It's suggested that, okay, well, he must have at that point, while in the garage, taken Shanann's body out from inside of the house, placed into the back of his truck. And then you could kind of see like there's shadows of like little people running around. That was definitely the girls. That was little girls.
Mm-hmm.
So mom was gone. They knew that mom was gone. And 4-year-old and 3-year-old Bello and Cece are
alive when they left,
about to take this trip with dad to the oil fields to dispose of Shanann's body. And that's where we know from Chris's confession, post-conviction, that, well, he claims, and I went over it on the last episode about how he dispatched of his 4 and 3-year-old. And by the way, happy birthday to Olivia. She's 5 years old today.
Happy birthday, Olivia.
Happy birthday.
5 years old. Oh, I was so dead zombie tired. And I told my wife yesterday, hey, you're never going to see your 4-year-old ever again. Make sure you give her a hug. And then we did. And then she was born at around 6:12 a.m. 5 years ago, exactly today, on this monumentous occasion. Olivia, happy birthday. She's going to Disneyland today. Never mind. But I had mentioned about this case, about how deeply it affected me back then, but even especially now, because my daughters, I mean, I had a 4 and a 3-year-old. Now I have a 5 and a 3-year-old. And, you know, wife is about the same age as Shanann. It's just so strangely parallels my life and my family structure. I'm getting off track with Shanann.
Girls and a boy.
There was a phone ping at around 6:15 a.m. around the Christopher Watts residence. And we're going to talk about that because prior to that, all of the pings were at her house. And then after that, all of the pings were in or around her, where she worked. And so why would her phone ping there? She lived 25 minutes away. You got to take into account cell phone tower ping radius, how things could malfunction, how things could whatever. But, you know, there's not really a good explanation for why on that specific day, at that specific time, she would have been found at the residence. And that would have been after the time that Christopher Watts already left the house on his way to the oil fields. And so there's that. Her activity the days of the murder, the day before the murder, on that very infamous date that they had at the Lazy Dog restaurant, where they were both was like, you know what, screw it, we're not hiding this anymore. And then Christopher pays for their meal on the joint statement family credit card or whatever, which Shanann found out about, confronts him about it, and then, you know, so you got to wonder, was there some kind of a secret plan that they knew was about to be executed? There's no longer this need to be secretive. Who knows? The behavior after the murders, there was multiple phone calls between Nicole and Chris, back and forth, including a suspect.
When the police were there at his house, he was texting her. She was texting him. Like, we know that for a fact.
Phone call between Christopher Watts and the detectives where it's suspected that Nicole was listening in on the phone call to figure out what were they talking about, or recovering all of her bases. What was the reason for that?
Yep.
So her whereabouts the night and early morning hours later that afternoon, the lies and the inconsistencies. So when she's interrogated.
Is it interrogated or interviewed? I'd say interviewed.
So from your guys' perspective, I would love to get your female perspective on all of this. So there is a murder. Let's just pretend, for the sake of pretending, let's give the hypothetical that you are involved in a love triangle where you are the mistress. and you really don't want anybody to find out, but you find out that the person that you're involved with just murdered their entire family, or may have murdered their entire family, or suspected of murdering their family, such as the Chris Peterson case, such as the Christopher Watts case. At what point do you sacrifice the knowledge of your affair for the sake of justice? Either one of you could chime in whenever you want.
You don't sacrifice, and you report them to the
Exactly.
authority. That's my opinion.
Well, what do you think?
I agree. I would just run to the police station and just blur everything out, everything that I
And
know.
from your legal perspective, I'd imagine they're probably going to...
So we have two legal people that are professionals. This man and this lady.
be looking at you and so, hey, man, I'll tell you everything I know. Here's my phone. I didn't delete anything. Here's exactly what happened. This is my exact involvement. This is exactly when I found out about him. This is exactly, I didn't know anything about this. And look, if he did this, then I want him to fry. I suspect would be the opinion of most people. Well, Nicole took a different route, arguably. So
Defended herself.
we know from the discovery files that she had Googled the name of Shanann Watts back in 2017, which would have been a full year before the murders, which would have been months prior to her relationship that she stated with Christopher Watts, which would have began in June of that year, 2018. And there was searches, I might have had that backwards, but she was Googling Christopher Watts. She was Googling Shanann Watts. And there was some question about why that was.
I think that
At first, it was, I know I'm talking between it, I'm talking during it, I'm pausing. It's a reaction video, so please bear with me. But the reason why she stated in a different interview that I don't think a lot of people know about is she kept stating that she was looking into Shanann because of Thrive. Thrive is, obviously, we've known about Thrive. It's an energy boosting weight loss supplement that has patches and drinks and bars and so forth like that. But it just, that's what she originally stated. But then she said that Chris, when she looked at Chris through Shanann's page, she fell in love. And I'll find that information for you guys to show you guys. But she stated that's originally what she found. But then she started looking into Chris. Then she went back to Shanann. Then she went back to Chris. She went back to Shanann. It was over and over. Like, it was multiple times. She literally had come to, we don't know for a fact, but somebody was hating on her in her live streams. I mean, again, I have the problem. Other YouTubers have the problem. TikTokers, Instagram followers. But it was like one person that was sending, like, I don't know if it was one person, but somebody was sending her hate comments, hate emojis, hate this, and they were being removed and stuff like that. But we never knew who it was. Could it have been Nicole?
may be normal for a mistress. You know, she knows that she's involved with a married man, and she may want to check more into his wife.
But time out on that. So why would she have reason to Google before they began this relationship?
Apparently it's Thrive.
Unless she was
They
either
may have
interested.
been flirting, and she knew it was going. She may have known it was going to go somewhere, so she was trying to, you know, just look more into the relationship. So I think that a little bit normal.
Yes, I mean, from a woman's perspective, I Google random people even after I meet them. Just, I don't know.
Do you guys
just to know if
at
there's
home
something
do
else
that?
out there.
Well, I would tell you right now that in my Google search history, you might find like Melissa's husband in my search history. I background check people all the time. I might have possibly done a background check. I may or may not have, but it wouldn't surprise me. I don't even know what your husband's name is, but he may possibly back in 22 have been a part of my search history. It's possible, but that's how I would have explained it. Like, I Google a lot of people, but I'm a lawyer. I Google background checks and all. So it's possible
You're gonna see a lot of Funko
that
Pops and
she
Iron Man
might have
online.
searched for them in a non-nefarious capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Possible, giving her the ultimate benefit of the doubt, right? But let's dive in a little bit further. So Nicole's voicemails. Have you ever heard Nicole's voice.
Yeah,
Have you ever heard some of these voicemails? Hey, Dominic, insert a clip right here of Nicole's wicked witch giggling about how.
Oh gosh.
It's me. I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi. Call me back.
Giggling about how she sounds like the wicked witch from Snow White. I swear to goodness. So a lot of stuff that happens in Discovery. Here's what happens. If you've ever been an attorney on a criminal trial that's going to take place, you get records of everything. The contents of somebody's phone, you think that you're deleting stuff, they could recover that shit. There's very few circumstances where they cannot. People try to get rid of electronic evidence. Electronic evidence has been.
And I heard also they just found out that Nicole factory reset her phone as well. I don't know if that's a complete valid truth, but I'm looking into it that she deleted the stuff, but then she factory reset her phone as well. I'm going to find out for 100% sure.
A thing for a long time now, and there is severe consequences for trying to destroy and get rid of electronic evidence.
I have literally looked it up. Hold the phone. So I'd like to put this here, Exhibit 1, because of obstructing a peace officer charged in Colorado countries such as Jefferson County, Adams County is a Class 2 misdemeanor. If you are charged, you could be facing anywhere from 3 to 12 months in jail, a $250 fine, of a $1,000 fine, community service for just one case of obstruction of justice. Documentary material could include a handwritten material, electronic communication such as text messages and emails, attempting to destroy information, SIM card, or conceal it by deleting it from your phone's memory could be considered obstruction of justice, where the could be comes into play. But again, she could have gotten at least 3 months to a year in prison just on one count. She got nothing. Just saying. I just wanted to also reiterate and put this in here that intentionally making false statements or concealing a material fact to a federal agent or investigator is a federal crime, punishable up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $2,500 of lying to a federal agent in Colorado. She could have served, so far from the evidence that we've seen, 6 years in prison for what she has done wrong. And yet she got nothing.
In the family law circles and the civil litigation circles, there's ESI warnings in my retainers because I want you to know, hey, if you got stuff on your phone, you need to not delete that. I need to know what it is. So when your phone gets turned over to the detectives and they go through a recovering of all of the information, everything is on there. So they uncovered text messages, they uncovered phone calls, they uncovered pictures, they uncovered these little FaceTime rendezvous that they were having. And Nichol Kessinger's voice. Let me just say, if I was dating anybody ever, at any point in time, ever in my life, and they cackled the way that Nichol Kessinger did to Christopher Watts, that would have been a wrap. They would have been like, you know what?
Red flag.
Disqualified on account of your evil cackling.
You want a woman.
Every time I hear that voicemail, I think of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And that lady with the apple. And then, so much of my life parallels the Disney movies.
It does, man.
Nature
How old
being
is
a
this
girl
guy?
dad.
I feel like he's the same age, if not a little bit older than I am.
But Nicole's voicemails, they show a lighthearted and affectionate tone towards Chris before the murders. The way in the interrogation that Nicole characterized her relationship with Christopher Watts was casual. And you know what? I didn't even know he was married, but when I found out he was married, I was like, hey, you got this beautiful house. You got these beautiful children. You got a beautiful wife. Why don't you just try to work on it? Don't work on me. She's trying to make herself out to be like the little Betty Crocker. I don't know if Betty Crocker is like a saint or anything, but like this good person with well intentions. having no desire of being a home wrecker or anything like that. Hey, why don't you just try to make it work with your husband? The way that you hear her tell it is like, I didn't know that he was married at first. I thought they were going through a divorce. And the way that I understood it is that they were basically business partners and they were together because of the kids and whatever he was telling her, whatever she says that he was telling him. And that she didn't know. Here's the big part of it. Nichol Kessinger claims up and down that she didn't know that Shanann was pregnant.
Lie.
Which, if you spend any time dissecting the 2,000-page file of discovery, you know that Nicole not only knew about it, but she was obsessed with it. She frequently visited Shanann's Facebook page.
Every day.
She frequently was looking for and investigating the whereabouts of.
Again, she said, I wish I could give you your firstborn son, not Shanann.
Christopher Watts' family. This was the thing that she did. There's no chance in hell that she didn't know that Christopher Watts' wife, Shanann, was pregnant.
Thank you.
Because on Father's Day, around the time where she claims that their relationship began, I don't know the specific date it would have been, but in June of 2018,
June 20-something.
yeah, there was this huge tribute posted by Shanann praising Christopher Watts for being such a good father.
Yep.
And we know that Nicole, frequently being a constant visitor of her Facebook page, would have seen that. No chance she would have seen it.
Yep.
Would not have seen it. But she definitely knew that she was pregnant. But she's telling investigators that she didn't have any idea. And if she knew that Shanann was pregnant, then it would have been a wrap. She would have ended her relationship with Christopher Watts. Why is that important? Because it creates a motive for murder. It creates a murder for Christopher Watts. If Christopher Watts is so in love with Nichol Kessinger, and he knows that there's no chance in hell that she's going to be with him if he's about to have his wife give birth to this new baby boy, then he's going to end the relationship. Okay, well then I'll just get rid of her. It's not a logical explanation as to why he would do what he did, but it creates a motive for why he would have done such a thing. And it creates a joint motive between Nicole and Christopher as to, look, we can't be together with the annoyance of your current family.
Persuasion.
We need a dispatch of them somehow. And part of the speculation was this plan, which I don't really understand, but has been thrown about, that there was this plan and there was research done on the part of both parties to poison Shanann with OxyContin for the purpose of inducing a miscarriage. But help me understand, from a female perspective, how does that solve the problem?
It does not.
What difference does it make if there's a miscarriage? He's still got 2 other kids. What difference does it make if he gives birth to this other one? If you really want to be with this guy, like, why do you need to induce a miscarriage or get rid of her? You just kind of find, I guess I would imagine.
And that's where the whole sacrifice comes into it. That apparently another theory, again, I don't want to go into it, but that Nichol Kessinger's deity that she so-called thought about, a sacrificial unborn son, is one of those things. So, again, I don't want to go into the conspiracy theories on that, but that's what was rumored to be said.
Imagine that you would just understand that, look, you're breaking up this family. He's going to be with you, but he's got this other family. What would be the motivation from a female perspective? I have my theories, but I'm curious from your perspective first before I share my opinion.
Yeah. In my opinion, I feel like she's just grasping and trying to hold on to him. She does know that, like with another child, that there's going to be, more of a hold. He's going to stay. He has a son that's going to be born. So suggesting that, okay, if that in fact is true, here's some OxyContin, give it to her. Let's, get rid of the baby. Maybe she feels that he's already made the decision to have an affair with her, having a wife and 2 daughters, and she wants to move forward from there. So eliminate the baby. I mean, at that point, who knows what's going on in her mind? She's having an affair with a
Mom's on
married
it.
man.
Well, it's not going to be logical, whatever
No,
her conclusions
nothing.
are. But what do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think, Eliana?
Well, I'm thinking that probably she knows that if the child is born, there's a possibility that
Her losing him.
he might, he might change his mind, maybe because of the connection with the son. It's the first son. Who knows if that will maybe make him realize the mistake that he was doing.
It's so interesting that you bring that up because it kind of plays right into what I'm about to say
Mhm.
about my opinion about why she was saying these things.
I want to hear from a professional.
But before we get into that, let's continue. So during her 3.5 hour interview, she's trying to convince the FBI agents that are interrogating. It really was just one, and then she was in the interrogation room with her dad. And people have made a big deal about that because her father was tied to law enforcement. He had a career in law enforcement. People worry or wonder about his sway with law enforcement. And I got to tell you, when I share what I'm about to share, it makes sense why people would think that.
Please.
It's not so significant to me that they allowed father to be in the interrogation room. Because maybe they did that because that was the only way she was going to come in. They were going to get voluntary information.
Which I thought of.
Whatever they got from the interview, fine. Might have been nothing, might have been something, but we just need to get her talking. And he's not a lawyer, he's a law enforcement guy. So fine, maybe it was safe. But there was a point in time in that interrogation where they start diving into specific aspects of what they discussed the night before the murders. And he just kind of shuts all of that down, says, stop asking leading questions. You know, the way that I would shut it down, I wouldn't shut it down the way that he did. I would just say, hey, you've already asked that, so we're not going to answer it again. You've got your response. Move on. But he just says, stop asking questions, and he just kind of tries to derail the entire investigation or interrogation. But during the interview, this is what she says. She says she didn't know Shanann's name right away. She didn't know when she started dating him. She didn't know it right away, but that's not true.
She looked her up.
If you believe the Google searches. So the internet searches from the discovery state that as early as January 7th of 2018, approximately 8 months prior to the murders, she searched for Shanann Watts' name. But more specifically, she searched Christopher Watts' name on August 3rd of 2017, which is bizarre. Because she would not have had reason to know him at that time. They weren't even working at the same place where they claimed to have met. In 2017, she was not employed where Christopher Watts was employed. She claims to not have started a relationship with him until around June of 2018. So it was this anomaly in the investigation which raised eyebrows, but didn't really lead to anything. You know, Chris Watts, is there another Chris Watts that we know about? Chris is not exactly an uncommon name. Watts is not exactly an uncommon name. So it's possible. Do we have reason to believe that she knew Christopher Watts back in 2017? We don't know. So an eyebrow raise, sure, but is there anything definitive from just that? No. She deleted those searches, however. I don't know when she deleted them, but she did delete them. Why? I guess that's the $1 million question, isn't it? So there was a Crime Online article, and Dominic is going to have a link below to this article, but it talks about the discrepancy in the searches. And what that article states was that basically there was a records supervisor at the Frederick Police Department. They said that an entry in one of the phone data review reports showing that Kessinger did an internet search for Shanann Watts on September 1, 2017 was a typo.
How?
And then they referred Crime Online to the Weld County District Attorney's Office for further clarification and on additional entries in a different section of the phone data review showing that Kessinger searched for Shanann Watts in January 2018, in which references multiple deleted searches for Chris Watts dating back to August 2017. So they're trying to say, oh, it was a typo. They didn't really mean to say 2018. But here's what the DA says. No, it wasn't a typo. It wasn't a typo. The detectives are reporting what was contained in the data from her phone. That's what was covered. That's what was in the discovery.
It did nothing.
I don't know the answer to the question of why or how those dates ended up on her phone. So then the question becomes, so then why not question Kessinger about the data suggesting she was aware of Chris and Shanann for up to a year before the murders? And the DA explains, well, we didn't get to that point in our investigation of attempting to independently verify that or not because Chris pled guilty. And when you ask me if I have verified that information, the answer to your question is no. Nicole Kessinger told us that she met and started a relationship with the defendant in 2018. So where that anomaly in the data comes from, I can't answer it for you. I don't know the answer to it. I have absolutely no reason to investigate Nicole Kessinger at this point in time. This is not a witch hunt. Basically stating that the existence of these 2 internet searches is not enough to force our hand into investigating her further if we got a full-on confession from Christopher Watts.
And the reason why he got a full confession is he said if you do or state a full confession, death penalty is off the table. That's what happened.
So it was not a typo. Let's not make that mistake. For whatever reason, for whatever reason you could possibly conjure, Nichol Kessinger searched for Christopher Watts in 2017 and was searching for Shanann Watts in January of 2018.
8 months before.
Months before the murder. That is a fact that we have to accept as true because there's not an explanation for why it should not exist. There's also not an explanation as to why it exists, but it was there. So maybe Christopher Watts was on her radar. Maybe. Perhaps they had a relationship outside of work that nobody knows about.
I think so.
Which would be hard for me to fathom given how much this case has been dissected. But there was some knowledge, at least in the part of her internet searches, as to the pair. Why? I guess that's kind of the big question.
But it was Chris first.
So the DA goes on to say that my job is to investigate and prosecute who was responsible for the deaths of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. We've done that. I have no information nor any belief that any other criminal defendant is out there who is responsible for their death in any way, shape, or form. The Frederick Police Department did not immediately respond to a request for clarification of their earlier statements about the phone data review. So Chris Watts pleads guilty about the murder of his wife and his daughters, is serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole at the Wisconsin Correctional Facility after being transferred out of the Denver prison due to safety concerns. And God bless those folks that want to carry out prison justice. Christopher Watts has had a rough time of it in prison.
He did it to himself.
Immediately when after he had pled guilty, and he's talking to the FBI agents about, they go to him for this secondary interrogation, not really an interrogation, but more like an interview. He's like, all right, so look, I have nothing to gain from this. I just want to know what the F were you thinking about?
Which the discrepancy is that some people think that they went there to retrieve information more about Nicole. Some people think they just wanted to see if he had the same story, if he had anything additional to add to it. So it kind of goes different ways on what the reason why they went to go get that information.
About when you did what you did. Tell me, I'm trying to understand you. And so this was Chris's opportunity to try to, just let's have a therapy session with the FBI. Why not? I'm already in here. There's nothing to lose. And then in the course of doing that, he mentioned that, yeah, there's all kinds of people threatening to harm me and I'm going to get this and that. And they had to keep me out of general population and they moved me all these different places. Along with, once the discovery came out, there's all these recorded voicemails. If you want some therapeutic listening, you could just Google threatening voicemails to Christopher Watts, and the general public kind of just had their way with, what they thought of him, knowing about what he did. But beside the point. So people think, let's talk about dad shutting down the interrogation. This is what people think. This is what's out there. People think that the reason that Nicole's dad shut down the interrogation is because of knowledge of evidence that points to her guilt. And then similarly, people think that Christopher confessed to save Nicole. And I'm not sure about either of that. I don't think, having heard the interrogations, that dad knew all of the information, all of the evidence, because they got into some stuff. Imagine, I just walked into my daughter's room, Raven, she's like 17. And, teenage girls are very guarded in what they tell their dads. And one of the things that they're not going to discuss is clothing items that they have. And then I just kind of looked at,
Boys,
I was
they
like, hey,
like.
what is this? And Rim's like, Dad. It's like, okay. There's just lines that you don't cross with your dad, no matter how old you are. Understandably, I don't believe that Nichol Kessinger was fully forthcoming when she discussed what happened with her father. I don't think that her dad had any idea of the deleted text messages and conversations that were recovered by the FBI. So I don't think that he thought that there was evidence that existed that might have pointed to her guilt. But what I do think is that he started to connect the dots when they started to bring up deleted text messages.
And he's like, hold
and
on.
at that point, not knowing what was out there, decided to shut things down.
Oh yeah, he's protecting his daughter.
As a good daughter would, or a good attorney would, or a father. I often tell my family, hey, if you ever get pulled over or stopped or investigated for anything, you call me first. It's just protective instinct for a man with his family, father to daughter. I always tell my daughter, you don't tell the cops anything for no other reason than, look, I'm not trying to shield her from crimes. I'm not trying to do that. But I also am very familiar and very well aware of how the cops try to F with people to force them into false confessions. And I'm not about that life, and I will guard it at every stand. Not suggesting that that's what happens every time, but I don't, on the chance that it does happen, such as Brandon Dassey in Making of a Murderer, I don't want that happening to anybody that I care about or know or trust me to protect them, my clients, or otherwise. It's not from protection of, shielding their guilt from a crime. It's just from protecting.
Just listening to this guy, I would love to hire him as an attorney if I ever needed one.
Them from nefarious law enforcement practices that have been known to exist for many years now. This is no secret that people listen to these false confessions. And so Dad being involved in law enforcement, I think he's just started in the midst of the interview to connect the dots and acted the way any normal father would, who had an inclination. I use that word inclination. Who had an idea.
He said, "Don't use it."
Of what was going on. So the DA's office had evidence. This is what they had evidence of. This is what Dad, I don't think, knew. But they had evidence of Nicole's searches going back before the murders. They had the stuff from 2017. They had the stuff from 2018, raising doubts about her involvement. There was inconsistencies in Nicole's claims about her first date with Chris and her knowledge of his marital status before dating him, raising suspicion about her honesty with the case. So, if nothing else, if Nichol Kessinger is not a conspirator to murder, if she's not a murderer herself, there's some people that actually think that it was Nichol Kessinger that suffocated those little girls and not Christopher Watts. I don't know anything about that. For me to suggest that would be based on pure conjecture, speculation that I just don't know enough about to say definitively one way or the other. So you can think what you want about that. But this is what they knew definitively. They knew that Nicole was not being forthcoming and truthful about the extent of her relationship with Christopher. They knew that. They knew that she knew that Shanann was pregnant. They knew that she knew that Shanann didn't think that they were getting divorced. So if her claim was this, Christopher Watts was telling her that, oh, we're just business partners. We're separated, but we're not separated. I can't tell you how often I hear that story. And Liana, tell me if I'm wrong. I want to get a divorce, but I can't afford to move out. So what do I do? Well, I guess you got to stay there then. Because you can't just leave the kids there because you're abandoning your kids. That's going to give him the upper hand in the custody and visitation fight. Do you have a place to take yourself and the children safely that's not going to disrupt their lives? No. Well, then you're going to stay there until we figure this all out. I've had that conversation many times. But it's not uncommon for people to be on the outs with marriage and still living together because of financial reasons or whatever.
All the time. They move into a different room.
Yeah, I've heard the roommate theory so many times. you know what sucks about, well, it's not what sucks about it, but the thing about being a family law attorney is that you're like 80% of your job is a therapist to your clients.
Yes.
And it's the reason why we do this segment at the end of the show, Family Law After Dark, because I feel like family law attorneys are uniquely qualified to offer advice to people contemplating such a move, relationship advice and all. We see the worst of it. I mean, we're married, we have our own lives and all of that, but we're constantly confronted with the worst of marriage, constantly. So when Nichol Kessinger, when I got to tell you, when I first listened to the interviews, when I first listened to Nicole in the interviews, I kind of gave her the benefit of the doubt. I said, well, everything she's saying kind of makes sense. And I had kind of written off the possibility of her involvement on the basis of Christopher's confession because he was such a bad liar and such an unlikable person.
That's why
like
I've
never had
into it.
The negative visceral reaction to anybody I've ever talked about on the show, such that I had to Christopher Watts. The fact that he would be given this beautiful family and have those beautiful little girls talking about him like he's a hero and being charged with protecting and marshaling that family into success, or at the very least just keeping them safe to snuff out their lives the way that he says that he did. I've never had a greater desire to fight anybody in my life, on this show anyway, with Christopher Watts. You're just such a despicable human being. But I feel like my emotional response to that shut me off to the possibility of Nicole's involvement. But what she said made sense. But it's not unlike what she said made a lot of sense in that I hear it all the time here in this office. That I didn't know he was married, or that, you know what, I'm dating other people, but I'm basically separated from my wife, but we live together. I hear that so many times. And so it's plausible what she was saying. She said that she assumed that Chris was separated and was a single dad.
It is very common also for people that are cheating to tell that girlfriend or boyfriend that story. Oh yeah, we are still living together because of financial reasons. We're actually separated, when in reality they're not. That's just an excuse to continue.
No, I'll tell you what. I was once a divorcee. I was divorced like in 2009 or 2010 or something, right before we began law school. And the appeal of me as the single dad it scored a lot of points with potential mates. Well, it was one of the most attractive things about me, according to my wife. Okay. It's like, oh, you're such a good dad. And it was like, wow, you could probably be such a good dad to my children. Well, she didn't say that. I'm making it up. But yeah, it was a talking point. She says that right before, here's the big discrepancy. So right before Father's Day, she said that that's when Chris keyed her in on the fact that he had other children. That would have been in June, right? She said that she assumed that Chris was separated and was a single dad. But Nicole, we know from the discovery, from her search history and her internet browsing history, that she was basically stalking Shanann on Facebook. And on that page, there was a lengthy tribute, as I mentioned, to Chris Watts, the good doting father. So if she had read that, and if you're stalking a page, I'd imagine you would have, there would have been no mistake that not only does this guy have kids, but his wife thinks that he's a terrific father. And if a wife is making a post about that, she doesn't have any idea that they're separated. So obviously connecting the dots from the mistress role,
separation.
You know that you're the mistress. You know that you're the mistress.
I think
she knew that. Here's my theory. I think that aided her ego. I feel like there was this ego thing that was going on between Nicole and Chris, where she claims, she starts saying things like, why don't you work on your marriage? Why don't you just, choose them? Why don't you fix things? Why don't you do all of this? I believe that was a manipulative ploy by Nicole to force Chris into a corner where he wanted Chris to choose her or over Shanann and the kids.
What we've been saying.
What do you girls think about that?
Yes. She was putting a little bit of pressure in there.
Somebody's got to. Dominic, do you disagree? Somebody's got to disagree with me at some point.
I mean,
It's my theory. Now, look, I don't know anything about that, but I was raised by women. I've lived with women all my life. I don't want to say I know all about women because I don't. I just have lots of experience with that mindset. I feel like that's what she was doing. Here's why I say what I say. It was at this point where they bring up the Facebook page about the timing of the knowledge of the children with Chris that the officers, she starts getting frustrated with the interrogators and starts talking over the officers. And that's at that point where Dad basically shuts it down. Hey, you're asking leading questions. Do you hear what I said? He starts going into his dad thing about, and sometimes you see this with attorneys at depositions where they don't have any legal backing, but they don't like the form of questioning. So they just basically disrupt it. And I know that that's in the playbook because that's in my playbook. When I was a much younger attorney, I didn't know anything about the law, and I didn't like the line of questioning for my client, and I know that they were scoring points. Objection. This is bullshit. You've asked it 8 times, and I haven't said anything about it, but I'm objecting. He's answered your question 7 times. If you want to motion me, then motion me. But I'm instructing my client not to say anything further. I've had that whole... it was straight up, it was probably more dramatic than what I just described. I specifically remember an occasion, but in that moment where I was speaking from, which is why I relate to Dad, I was speaking from a place of fear because they were going into stuff that I didn't know as an attorney was out there. And I wasn't confident in what my client was going to say. And I was trying to buy myself time to process what I had just learned to come up with a strategy. And at that point, I had my whole objection. I disrailed the thing for 5 minutes. And what's funny, if you're in a deposition, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Ileana, but when you're in a deposition, you got the court reporter there, and you got somebody taking down all the transcripts, and like she straight up said, "If you guys keep on arguing back and forth, then we will leave. Let's take a bathroom break. Let's take 15." I manufactured a bathroom break, and then I hey, buddy, so what was that all about? Why did you not tell me about X, Y, and Z? And the life of an attorney. I've had maybe a couple of depositions like that. They're not all like that. Most of the time, they're very cordial, but beside the point. So that's the reason for my theory. I feel like that was what was going on with Nicole's dad. I didn't know about these deleted searches. You already asked her about that 3 times. I don't understand what's going on. You know what? Hey, buddy, stop asking leading questions. Did you hear what I said? I want you to shut it down. She answered you. Okay. All right. And it's the same energy that I had, not as a dad, as an attorney, trying to protect my client. I just didn't understand what was going on. And so, I don't know. Ileana, have you ever done that when you're in court and the judge asks you a question, you have no idea?
Oh, yeah.
No idea? What's your strategy? How do you derail it? How do you get over on that one?
Most of the time I start talking about something else. And that's what happened this morning. The other attorney, they asked something, and I guess she didn't know, and she just started talking about something else. I was like, okay.
What's a trip? Yesterday, this is the first time it's ever happened in my career. I'm representing this new client and then opposing counsel. I subbed in on the case like yesterday. I won a 30-day continuance. And then the attorney was trying to object to my request for a continuance. Like, first of all, this attorney appeared on this case back in 2019. And then she goes on to say that this has been 6 years of litigation. I don't want to drag this out any further. And I object to the continuance. We need to set trial dates now. And I was basically just going to say that, Your Honor, I just came on the case. There's no harm in me meeting and confirm with opposing counsel to find out what we could settle and what needs to go to trial. What's the harm? It's been 6 years. But the first thing out of my mouth was, first of all, I've never appeared on this case. I don't know this client. I don't know anything about this case. This is my first appearance on the case. And then I checked at the docket and I spoke with my client afterwards. Like, no, you were on my case like in 20. Really? Serious? I don't remember. Like, what happened? I was like asking her what happens. Like, well, I wanted to dismiss the restraining order, and then the judge dismissed it over your advice because I advised her not to dismiss it. I wanted it on the record. I advised my client not to do this. And hey, lo and behold, 4 years later, they're still going through all of this BS, and she should have took my advice back then, but she didn't.
That happens all the time.
But it's the first time I've ever happened where I legitimately do not remember an appearance or a client. I thought this was somebody new.
And you were so sure.
I needed to correct the other. I need to apologize to her. It's like, you know what? I know I said that. I apologize. I didn't know. I legitimately didn't remember. Oh.
The question is, did they grant the continuance?
Oh, they did. Of course they did. Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, just take 30 days, meet and confer, and figure out what we could settle. 2-year marriage, 6 years litigation. What's the deal? You know,
Exactly.
It's kind of the issue. So, anyway, not Shanann. Nicole is trying to convince these interrogators that she did not want to break up the marriage because there was children involved. She encouraged him to focus on fixing his marriage and being a good father. And then there's some people that have claimed that, oh, she's trying to be a martyr and all of this. Mm-hmm. She's trying to just make herself look like the good person. I object to that. I legitimately believe that she said those things to Chris. I just think it was her setting up Chris to try to force him to choose her over his family.
Agreed.
That's my theory. But what do you think it is? Do you think it's more her basically trying to get Chris to choose her? Control? Or was it, no, I want you to try to work it out with your family. Don't worry about me. What do you think?
I think it's both. I think she's trying to make him make a decision by making herself the martyr and being like, see how good I am, that I'm giving you the opportunity.
Like challenge.
Fix it. Choose me. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Mom?
I think that she was definitely 100% involved in trying to sway him or manipulate him by saying, no, you need to stick with your family. I mean, as you said, she was searching, doing Google searches,
Oh, it gets deeper, the Google searches.
Creeping on her Facebook constantly. So she wanted to know exactly what Chris was doing when he was away from her. So I think she had a hand in trying to more or less move his actions with her words.
Here's what I think. I think she said those things to Chris because she wanted Chris to choose her over his family. But I also think it was part of a successful manipulation. Here's what I know just hearing her speak. She was fully aware of the beautiful life
that he had with
that Chris and Shanann had together. Have you seen that house? Mm-hmm. That house is gorgeous. Yes. It's like Jesus.
And also with the clips that Shanann put on Facebook of him being happy with the kids and all of that. Father. It didn't look like he was an unhappy person at all.
Literally 15 weeks ago, she was getting his wife pregnant. There's like videos on Facebook of him. Hey, we did it again. This stupid shirt. Oh, I would have hated that so much. But that was Shanann's thing. She liked. And hey, I'm not about the life about wanting to attack whatever Shanann was. People have attacked her so much for being, she's all for show. She wants to put out this image and project this thing, MLM company and all this kind of stuff. Whatever. You know what?
Get over it.
I hear her story and I read her text messages to her friends about her lamenting the disintegration of her marriage with Christopher Watts. And it makes me want to hug my wife.
Agreed.
Picturing her thinking that over anything that I may have potentially done or said or she might have misunderstood. But she was so invested in her family. Whatever you want to think about her mannerisms, she was controlling, whatever. Stop being a bee. And, that's your wife. She's strong. You be strong for her. That's what I would have told Chris. But this idea that she was controlling, she drove Chris to this. Anybody that says this, I swear to God.
I know.
You're an idiot. I'm just going to.
A professional says it, guys. Remember the DA stating us junior detectives don't know what we're talking about? Literally, this man has said everything that our junior detectives say, but also gave it a legal interpretation which he's completely right. This man's a professional.
Put it out there. If you think that for somehow that Shanann Watts' behavior drove Chris to this and that somehow absolves Chris by any percentage, you and I are not of the same kind.
Yeah, they're delusional.
But there's people out there that say that.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, if you're interested in making those arguments on this channel, I'm not subscribing to any of it. I'm not willing to listen. And I'm not the type to not listen, but I'm not listening to those arguments.
Amen.
I think that not only was she fully aware of the life that they had together, she spent time in her house. Before the murders, Shanann was in Christopher Watts' house. She drove
Nicole?
in Shanann's car. Yeah. They probably slept together in the house. Probably. She saw the pictures and she saw the whole setup with the children. She saw that beautiful life that they had built and cultivated over 8 years and had strong opinions about it. And I think that she wanted the power and the satisfaction of forcing Chris to choose her over his family. For ego, for power, for whatever. Did she understand the implications of what she was trying to do? I don't know that. But I feel like that's what she was trying to do. So I fully believe that she did tell Chris all of those things and Chris reacted accordingly. That gave him the motive to murder, didn't it? I guess the question just becomes whether or not Nicole was complicit in the planning of the murder. So let's talk about that. So the talk about coaching and protecting Nichol Kessinger from implication. Some have suggested that Chris confessed to shield Nicole. Some have suggested that Christopher decided to not implicate Nicole in securing OxyContin because he wanted to protect her. And I don't know about that, but let's talk about it. Was Nicole coached for her interrogation? 100% she was. So she was in that interrogation room with her dad. There's no chance in hell that her dad wasn't talking to her for the last 4 or 5 hours leading up to that interrogation about how we're going to conduct ourselves, what we're going to say, what we're not going to say. When I go to, listen, law enforcement interrogations, when I get involved, law enforcement shuts it down because they're not going to get anything. What I say to them is this. When they ask you a question, you answer it once. If they ask you the same question twice, you don't answer it. And at that time, I will chime in and probably object to the question. But if you know that they're asking the same thing twice, you don't answer that question. If you start talking too much, I'm going to kick you under the table. I reserve the right to do that. It means you're saying too much. If they ask you what you had for breakfast, you tell them what you had for breakfast. I had bacon and eggs. You don't tell them, oh, I woke up like at 7:30 and I was, I had a shower and I was.
This man is so like on it.
I was running a little bit late, but I didn't care, so I took a longer shower than normal. I was like karaoke singing this Britney Spears song, and then when I got to the shower, I was, I feel like I need my protein, so I cooked up some bacon and eggs, a little bit undercooked, and so, but whatever, I ate it anyway. I put some seasoning on it, and that's how. You don't tell them all of that. You tell them what you had for dinner. They don't need to know the rest of it. Answer their specific question.
So exactly how it happens.
They don't need to know all that.
When I'm trying to prep the clients for interrogation, like I tell them, like, you need to answer exactly what they're asking you.
Yeah.
And still,
That's
let's
it.
practice. And they just go
Yeah.
again. It's like, come on.
It's human nature. The way that human beings communicate is in this story narrative. It's been the way that we've communicated for thousands of years now. And so it's human nature to just tell people a story, not answer the question objectively. You and I know how to do that. But when people get on the stand, they start thinking, oh, we're having a talk over whiskey and cigars with the judge. No, they are trying to nail you. They're trying to gauge your credibility. They're trying to figure out whether or not you're a liar. So answer the questions that are asked of you. Let me tell the story. And so, at any rate, there's no chance that Nicole was not coached going into that interrogation.
I thought the same thing too.
So there are a couple things that she said. It needs to be pointed out that Dad had a relationship with the police that cannot be understated. Did he influence law enforcement to shut down the investigation into her in any capacity? In other words, if that relationship with the police did not exist, if Nicole was just interrogated by herself without her dad, would they have shut down the interrogation as a result of Chris's confession? That's what's infuriating to the general public, and honestly, kind of to myself. I went into all of this thinking that Nicole was whatever, the mistress or whatever. But what I know now, I feel like there might have been a conspiracy to murder Shanann, and she should be held accountable. Would that investigation have concluded had it not been for her father? I'm not sure that it would have. Matter of fact, here's what I know. Nicole was not the sharpest nail in the tool shed. She was not as smart as she believed that she would have been. I think that she had a false sense of her own intelligence as a result of dealing with Chris Watts' dumbass for the last however many months. And short of Chris, I think that just it was her nature to bully people and to talk in such a way that people would just stop talking when she started because she was so difficult to deal with. And that gave her a false sense of her idea of her intelligence. And that had the interrogators had the opportunity to question her without her dad present, and had they not shut down the interviews, she would have cracked. She was starting to crack. When they started, so what'd you guys talk about on the lazy dog? Oh, I don't know. It was so long ago. It wasn't so long ago. It was a couple days ago. Literally. It was a 111-minute phone call the night before the murders. What did you guys talk about? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. It was so many things. Let me tell you, when I have a 1 or 2 minute phone call with somebody, I might genuinely not remember what we talked about because it was a 1 or 2 minute conversation. I don't know what they talk about. It must have been about something, about the whatever, the settlement for something. When it's 111 minutes,
very specific.
I was talking specifically about something that required 111 minutes of conversation.
Amen.
This wasn't a middle school conversation where it's like, oh, I will go. I don't want to go to sleep. You hang up. No, you hang up. No, you.
Exactly.
And then they're on the phone for, I hate phones so much. I can't. I'm not a texter. I'm not one of these people. My wife used to tell me that, oh, my boyfriend used to like want to stay on the phone with me all the time and like talk about stupid shit. Like, oh, I'm so not that guy. I will not call you for days. And I will be perfectly fine not calling you.
Good question.
Yeah.
When she was interrogated about that phone call, how many days? Or like
Had passed?
yes, from the interrogation and the phone call? Like a week or something?
I don't remember specifically, but I believe it was like maybe
Saturday.
I believe it was like 3 or 4 days.
It's 3 days.
I mean, everything was like bam, bam.
So
Now,
fast.
her involvement with the law enforcement lasted much longer, but I believe that initial interview happened right away.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking. Like sometimes I have.
But definitely after Christopher Watts' confession.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but his confession happened very quickly. But it was not like a significant amount of time where you would not have remembered what you talked about in a 111-minute conversation. So let's talk about that.
Not remember everything, but maybe you.
The general tenor.
Yes. Exactly.
Like, I don't know all the words to the song, but I know the chorus. You know, I could hum it for you. You know what I mean? And so let's talk about what she was lying about. Nichol Kessinger 100% lied about not knowing that Shanann was pregnant, and her digital history proves that,
crime.
and the discovery. We talked about how she frequented Shanann's Facebook page, the tributes about him being a great father and all of that. Her claim of not knowing about the pregnancy could be a potential motive, and that's what the detectives were getting about. And it was at this moment when they were questioning, it's like,
shut
okay,
down.
so what did you just say? Because she at one point in the interrogation, and we'll have links to her interrogation. I'm not going to replay it on the show. I've already been talking about it for like an hour and 9 minutes, and that's way too long. But her interrogation is like hours long. But at one point in the
3.5 hours.
interrogation, she mentions that if I knew that Shanann was pregnant, then I would have left Chris, and that would have been the end of it. And then the interrogator wanted to push back on. I was like, wait a minute, that's really important what you just said.
And Dad
So are
shut it
you
down.
saying that if you knew that Shanann was pregnant, you were going to leave Chris? And he was trying to ask that question, and then Dad was like, bullshit to all of this. You're asking leading questions, and he shuts down the whole thing. What he was getting at is like, okay, that's really important. That is a motive. So you told Chris, if he has this baby, I'm leaving. Well, that definitely creates motive for Chris. Does it create motive for Nichol Kessinger? Was she so much into Chris? Now look, she's like a 29, 30-year-old woman. Was she so into Chris where she would murder for the guy? Now here's where my cognitive dissonance occurs. I cannot fathom being into somebody enough to condone murder.
I couldn't.
And we talked about this on the Gypsy Rose case. Gypsy Rose even talked about like, look, when I was talking about wanting to kill my mom, if I had talked about anybody else other than my boyfriend, they would have talked me out of it and told me that I was crazy. Not only that, it would have probably left your ass because what the F, you know? Well, when you two were 29 years old, you guys are both above 29. I don't need to say how old you guys are. But let's just say that you guys are 29. Put yourself back in 29. You're really into whoever the F, you know, whatever, Aquaman, whatever. Or Rip from
Mom bites her lip.
At what point would you be so into the guy as to condone murder?
I would not.
Well, because you're a good Catholic girl, Christian. Christian folks don't condone doing such a thing.
But Nicole
wouldn't.
worshipped a deity. In witchcraft.
Ileana,
There's no way.
your pause disturbs me.
There's just no way.
No.
I'm just thinking, like, because I know there's so many cases like this, and it's the same question always, like, really, like, how in love do you have to be to get to that level
Point.
to murder?
That's the thing. I mean, if somebody that I was dating at 29 had brought up some, I discarded people for much less
Exactly.
than that. Condoning murder? Give me a break. Jesus Christ. What are we doing here? And so, I don't know, the cognitive dissonance about Nicole being involved basically stems from that.
Oh, it's not done? Ah! Is there more? Hold on. There is. Oh my gosh. So there's that one. And then there's this one. The truth behind Christmas, the second part. It's another an hour 11 minutes. Oh my gosh. This was so good. I could watch this even more. Who is Kessinger? Kessinger on trial. I want to watch this one too. But this is 2 hours. Oh my gosh. I need to watch these because I'm so invested in this video now. Bravo, man. Bravo. I want to talk to this guy like one-on-one. Maybe I might message him. His name is Omar. Omar, you did a fantastic job. I'm hoping to watch the other ones that you got here. Please comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about my reaction towards this. I enjoyed every single minute of this. He's got more. The Family Annihilator. Like, he's got more that I would love to watch and listen to. Oh, if you guys want me to do more parts to his stuff, please let me know down in the comments. I'm going to continue watching. He did a fantastic job. And I definitely want to know part 2 and part 3 and part 4 of all the stuff that he's got here. So again, I thank you guys for watching. Please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we'll see you guys in the next video.